Yeah, let's take a look at the upcoming playoff series as well, because it's a foregone conclusion. We might as well just put, I guess, Golden State into the Western Conference Finals because of how good they've been playing under Jimmy Butler, regardless of any seeding that they're playing, which includes a rested and ready number 2 seed with Houston. Now, as we talk about the disrespect, it's actually lightening a little bit this morning, Coach, at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You'll see a graphic that's going to pop up in a moment at minus 205. The live number now dropping to 188, and I agree with that. Let's just start here, Coach. A number 2 seed, rested and ready, playing a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs, if you will, as almost a $2 underdog. Ime Udoka has to be putting this all over the locker room, Coach.
Oh, he's got it all over the blackboard. Absolutely, Donnie. And it's really interesting if you really look at what's going on there. Like, they're going to look at the fact of they have no experience. Well, Fred VanVleet has a championship, right? Ime Udoka's coached in big games. I know they're a young roster, but they're going to present problems that, people don't realize. And I think the biggest thing, Donnie, is they don't have the respect because they don't have like the top 15, top 20 player in the world. But they got Alperen Şengün, who is a problem and is going to give this series fits. I think it's disrespected. I think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. So I do like that it goes later. If you want to take Houston plus 1.5 games, I wouldn't blame you. I think this is going to be a long series. I'm not willing to write off a team that has played so well this season. Yeah, they may fumble it. They may give a game away, maybe the first 2. But I think this is going to be a long and very, very competitive series.
Yeah, that's kind of the thought we have as well, JY. I think that's why Donnie was setting it up as such. The 2 seed in the Houston Rockets with home floor advantage against a team that had to scrape by in the play-in tourney, booked as the outright underdog. But that was going to be the case. The Warriors entered the postseason, even being a play-in tourney team, with the 3rd best price to win the Western Conference crown. Oklahoma City, a minus 150 odds-on favorite. The Lakers now the 2nd best number at 6-1, and Golden State at 7-1. JY, how do you make sense of these Western Conference odds where we stand with 7 of the 8 teams figured out for the Western Conference playoffs?
I think the numbers are kind of wild, to be honest with you. The Lakers obviously 6-1 playing great basketball. Golden State at 7-1. That means they have to run through obviously the 2-7 series with Houston and then the 3-6 series between Minnesota and the Lakers. But then it's the teams under that have my attention. It's the Clippers at 12-1. Listen, if Kawhi plays like Kawhi and is healthy, they could beat anybody. The Nuggets are extremely dangerous because they have the best player in the world. And then there's Minnesota sitting at 20-1. In my heart, this may be the spicy take of the day, I think they're beating the Lakers. I have this feeling that Ant's got this next level that's ready to come out. I think Rudy Gobert is going to be a problem. They have enough defenders to kind of deal with the Lakers. And at the end of the day, if Ant is dialed in, Ant could be the most dynamic player in the series. I like them to win the series. I also like Ant. I think it was plus 185 last night to lead the series in scoring. I think he's going to go for 30+. No one can stop them on the other side with the Lakers.
It is interesting now because of a little bit of movement for that series between the Warriors and the Rockets. Golden State not greater than a $2 favorite, but at minus 188. The strongest favorite for the 3 series we already know in the opening round out west. The Lakers at a minus 196 outright price to knock off the T-Wolves. By the way, the Clippers opened as a series underdogs against the Nuggets. They're now the favorites to the Eastern Conference next. To the Eastern Conference play-in tournament we go. Last night in Orlando, our opening game of 2 to start the NBA postseason. The Magic fully dominant against the Atlanta Hawks. 120-95, the victory for Orlando. They easily cover as a 6-point home favorite. The Magic will be the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs with an opening round set against the reigning champs in the Celtics. We'll talk about what we expect in that series in just a moment. But a 25-point win for Orlando last night, JY. Thoroughly impressive throughout. And the Anthony's off the bench. Cole Anthony, team high 26 points. Anthony Black approaching 20 points as well. What stood out to you about the Magic's performance against Atlanta last night?
The complete opposite of the Golden State Warriors win, where you had the 2 top players in Banchero and Wagner shoot a combined 10 of 28, 0 of 8 from the floor. or 8 from 3. So then you're thinking to yourself, oh no, like where are we getting scoring from? Well, Wendell Carter Jr. was absolutely fantastic with 19 points with a plus 28, 8 of 12, dominated inside. And then you got the play out of the Coles. Cole Anthony, and obviously Anthony Black. Their performances were outstanding. And I just think what you got out of them is a team that also grinds you defensively, right? You saw, obviously, they jump out to a 15-point lead, up by 14 at the break. Oh, no, here comes Trey with a huge third quarter, 12 out of the 26 points for Atlanta. And then you saw them just completely tighten the screws defensively and then do something we haven't seen out of Orlando. Get out in transition, run. These guys, Cole Anthony has been around the league for a while. This guy has always been his ability to score the ball. The problem I've had in the past with Cole Anthony, honestly, Ben, is I feel like sometimes he takes questionable shots. What's more impressive for me than the 26 points is the 6 assists, the ability to drive the ball and find and dish and get other guys involved. That's what I thought was really important out of Cole Anthony, a guy that could score it, but also that can dish it and get other guys involved.
Defense wins in the playoffs. We know that, and certainly the metric for the Orlando Magic is they're going to play good defense. They dropped 120 points last night, which was fantastic, but you always look forward to that under 100 performance for the defense, which they got once again. But as we digress into the next series, it looks like why are we even wasting time playing this series? A minus 7,000 price on the Celtics to advance over the Orlando Magic. It looks like it's supposed to be, Coach, a de facto sweep. So before we get into will the Celtics win the series, which they probably will, what can the Orlando Magic do against the Boston Celtics to make this a competitive series?
They got to lean on their defense. They have to be dialed in defensively, and he didn't score the ball well. Defensively, Paulo Banchero, if you watch that game, I saw him so engaged in pick and roll coverage and how he's defending that I was like, damn, I didn't even know Paulo had it in him to do this. So, listen, the way that Jamal Mosley coaches his team is they're going to be a tougher out than people expect. I think Boston's going to absolutely win the series, but can I see Orlando getting a game and giving Boston a scare in another game? Absolutely. I mean, they hang their hats on the defensive end of the floor. And when defense is your absolute, you're always going to give yourself some sort of chance to win. And let's be honest, guys, during the regular season, they have played. Orlando did. Listen, we can't count the 20-point win on the 9th. But they do have a 108-104 win during the season. They're going to find a way to keep this close and maybe steal a game, maybe 2 in this series.
So that's the question, JY, because we see what the odds makers are expecting.
Yeah.
Minus 7,000 for the C's to win it outright. You look at the series spread. You look at the series correct score. Boston a win in 4. That is a sweep, is the most likely option. So you're calling it now. Orlando wins at least 1 game to at least get to 5. How do you see this series? What would be the official prediction?
I said it's going to go 4-1. If I could have got it plus 3.5 at under 150, I would jump in there. But if you're asking me series correct score, I think it's 4-1. I think Orlando finds a way to win 1. And then if you really think about it, this is one of the best teams defensively, and Boston shoots such a crazy amount of threes. All you need is 1 game for them to go off. If you think about the 108-104 loss, I think Boston shot about 23 or 24% from the three-point line. If you're able to defend the 3, Ben, and get them to get misses and secure the first rebound, you could steal a game. If I can get it under 150, I'm going plus 3.5. But if you're asking me series score, I'm going 4-1. They'll get 1 game.
By the way, Coach, I'm going to ask you this question, too, because being in the 90s where the NBA was more defensive and physical, I was talking to Ben a little bit earlier today. Like, we remember the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat series. Like, hey, you're going to have 86 to 85 games, 79, 78 games. Did you see the total for the opening number for this game between the Magic and the Celtics? On the FanDuel Sportsbook, it's 206.5. Other outlets, Coach, 205.5. We can't get a game that low, can we? Are we looking at 2 teams that might not get to 100 points? Get out of here.
If you're Orlando, that's the way you have to play it. You have to play it. Listen, Donnie, I remember when the Knicks, if you got to 70 points, we're like, offensive explosion here. Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing killing each other all game. But this is the way Jamal Mosley knows that he's got to play this. He's got to be physical. They have to defend, and they got to get timely stops. If there is a team that could make Boston sweat a little bit in the first round in that lower half, it is Orlando because of their ability to defend. They're going to slow the game down. I think, listen, it'll probably go over the first game, but maybe if we get some crazy number and it goes up, I think those games around 210 is going to be right around where it's going to be. Absolutely.
And the Magic are a 14.5-point road dog inside TD Garden on Sunday afternoon. If it does stay under or right around 206.5, that, of course, is Orlando's best chance of covering a very large spread in the opening game of that set. JY, as we see in the Celtics and Magic series, as we see for the Cleveland Cavaliers as they await the 8th seed, the Hawks, the Bulls, or the Heat, they'll probably be a hefty favorite. The Celtics at minus 140, Cleveland at a plus 175 number. As we get ready for the Eastern Conference playoffs, we're still expecting the Celtics and the Cavs more than likely to meet up in the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll get JY's thoughts on what we have tonight in play-in tournament action. A doubleheader in Chicago and Sacramento. That's next on the Early Line. Live right here on this Wednesday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Play-in tourney action on this Wednesday evening. A doubleheader of games once again. Our 9-10 matchups. In Chicago, it's the Bulls in the Heat. In California's capital, in Sacramento, it's the Kings and the Mavericks. Speaking of Dallas, they're a play-in tourney team despite trading away Luka Doncic and losing Kyrie Irving for the remainder of this season. As Dallas gets ready to embark on the postseason, Nico Harrison, Dallas GM, yesterday, along with the Mavs CEO and Rick Welts, meeting with a select amount of media. No cameras, no audio recordings. Of course, that is always a good sign for a very transparent media affair. Nico Harrison was asked, JY, still about the Luka Doncic blockbuster deal. Just the second time he has spoken about this trade since the deal came about in early February, and said, quote, "I still have no regrets about the trade." When Nico Harrison opens his mouth, JY, what is your reaction?
Shut it. Maybe just pull Leon Rose. Have no press conference. Leon Rose, thank goodness the Knicks are good because he hasn't had a press conference, I think, in what, 2.5 years? But to me, listen, Nico Harrison, stop doubling, tripling down. It was a huge mistake with this trade. We all know it. Just own it. But he won't. But the sad thing about it is as much as I love Anthony Davis and I love Kyrie Irving, this is going to be over tonight. I know they are getting 4.5, 5.5 points. I would be shocked if this is a 10-point plus win by Sacramento. I look at this team in Dallas; they're broken. They're broken. I don't see a lot of faith in this team. I don't see a lot of faith in that organization. And my bigger question is two things. Number one, try to do something else. By the way, why did Nico Harrison get Austin Reeves in the trade? Someone has not answered that one for me yet. I don't know why.
Here's what I like to do, because the questions I have about the little gathering yesterday, like if you are the media, you have a chance to stonewall this guy. And I don't mean don't show up. If there's no media recordings and there's no actual TV that you can use, why did the media go in there, ask him all those questions and come out and be like, what a press conference that was? Nico just went up there and said, the guy he traded away, Luka Doncic, was the worst individual player he's ever seen in his life, and he stands by that comment. Because if nobody could prove it, who could prove it behind the scenes? You could have drilled that guy last night in that. Amazing coming out of there. Going in there, nobody had a teeth. Like, why was it off camera, Coach? That's what I want to know. No recording devices. What did he want? Why did he just hand a press release out on an email that says, here's my thoughts, no questions, I'm out of here? What was the point of having no recorders and no cameras? I don't understand.
Oh, I love Spicy Donnie. Let me button my jacket up. Yeah. I'm into this. You got me into this. Wait, do we even know it actually happened? Maybe it didn't happen.
Correct.
Correct. There's no recording. There's no cameras. Did they even let him have a pen and a piece of paper? What
landed on the moon? Come on.
Yeah, listen. At the end of the day, it's a joke of what went on yesterday in Dallas, and it's amazing. When the Lakers played Dallas, he was like under the tunnel, all buttoned up and hearing the boom.
Yeah.
And then when he gets a press conference, he runs for the hills. It just shows what's going on in Dallas, and obviously they will put out their pain and misery tonight versus Sacramento.
So, yeah, JY, that's your take, right? That Sacramento tonight at home, the Kings a 4.5-point favorite in California's capital, absolutely hammer Dallas. How come?
Because who's left? I mean, listen, Anthony Davis is going to be fantastic. Clay's got to play out of his mind. They don't have enough else there. I think Sabonis will do a decent job on the boards. You have Zavine and DeRozan, too much scoring there. And a Sacramento Kings team that I thought was going to win that division will find a way to win. 4.5 points. Like I said, 8+ points. I think they beat them up late.
And as we look at the first game tonight, JY, in Chicago, basically a pick'em between the Bulls and the Heat. Who wins to advance to Atlanta on Friday?
It's such a great story of how Chicago's played, the elevation of Kobe White's game. Obviously, what Josh Giddey's done the second half of the year. Vucevic playing defense. Billy Donovan's still there. It's all fantastic. I love everything about Chicago, but I'm taking the Miami Heat. I'm going to lean on that Heat cold. I know they've not been good, but I'm going to take the Miami Heat on the money line to get the win.
Oof.
The Bulls 15-5 straight up down the stretch to earn a home floor advantage tonight in the United Center against Miami. JY, as always, we appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you for being here on this Wednesday on the early line. A fadeaway to the break, a fadeaway to hour number 3, our third and final up next. And then to end out this hour, we'll break down the play-in tournament games that we have. First in Chicago, the Bulls and the Heat. Then in California's capital, out in Sacktown, it's time to, you know what, Kings and, I don't know if I could say what I was going to say. That's why I didn't say it. The Kings and the Mavericks play in our nightcap. Can I say blank up on this show? Sacktown, blank up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like the beam, man.
You get it?
Sure. Big party out there. Yep, sure.
Yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Like the beam at all points. DRS, yesterday we asked the public who wins the play-in tourney games. The public did back both of our favorites. The Warriors around a 7-point favorite. The Magic around a 5-point favorite. They were correct in the moneyline parlay, around a -105 price. If you wanted to back both of the favorites, they got that right. The Magic did cover. The Warriors did not in their matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. How about the public today? Who wins the play-in tournament games to live to see another day in postseason action on Friday evening? Question for all of you in Fade the Public. Who will win tonight's NBA play-in tournament games? Yesterday, 65 votes. Today, 92. Public is absolutely loving some postseason action around the association. And Donnie, it does appear that the public is really trying to figure out who wins the opening game of the night, which is basically a pick'em between the Bulls and the Heat. But most of the public backing Sacramento tonight at home with the Kings as a 4.5-point favorite. Who will win tonight's NBA play-in tourney games on SportsGrid on Twitter? Bulls, Kings, slightly in front at 37%. Heat, Kings, not all that far behind at about 34%. Which way did Donnie vote in the Fade the Public poll?
I actually picked the Bulls and the Kings, but also we're talking about winning basketball games without the actual spread advantage. Now, the Bulls, and you take a look at them playing the Heat, there's not really a spread advantage. Just pick the winner there. But there is a spread advantage there that you see there in the Kings game tonight. And the reason we bring that up is last night, we're like, you know what? I don't know if Memphis can basically win it outright. I think they'll be very competitive with a slight chance to do that, but 7's just too much. You saw the final score. They were able to stay inside that number. Now, granted, you can also have that game tonight between the Kings and the Mavericks where you can stay inside it, but the number much lower than 7.5. So that's down to 4.5, 5s, depending on where you're shopping at that point. So for me, I still do think the Kings possibly win, but I'm telling you, as this week is going on, looking at this game and the matchups here, low total in this one, I do think the Mavericks can hang around. So I do understand the fight between who's going to win that first game with the Bulls and the Heat, but also have that same feeling during that second game. Because again, we're not talking about a touchdown plus advantage on the line itself. You're talking within a possession or two to try to hang around. But my vote did go to the Bulls and the Kings at the 37%. So technically, I won't be fading the public.
I went Bulls and Mavericks. I am fading the public.
Yeah.
I love Dallas tonight. I think Dallas, led by Anthony Davis, has a great performance in Sacramento. Give me the 5, as I bet early this week. Give me the 4.5 right now. And heck, let's sprinkle on that money line as well. The main reason, DRS, for me is Anthony Davis. Since he returned from his injury that he suffered in his Dallas debut, he has played in 8 games for the Mavs down the stretch. There was a time that maybe Dallas could flirt with the 8th seed. It became very apparent, DRS, entering our final 2 weeks of this NBA regular season. We were really trying to figure out playoff positioning in terms of who would be out of the play-in tournament in the Western Conference and who would be those 7-8 seeds. It wasn't like the Mavs or the Kings really could catch whoever really would falter into that 8th spot in the Western Conference standings. Maybe some home floor positioning between Sacramento and Dallas, but that was really all that we had at stake. I mentioned that Anthony Davis in his return, 8 games down the stretch. Shouldn't play in every one for the Mavs as they still try to ramp up his production and minutes. But in the 8 games he was out there for Dallas, the Mavericks won 5. I think Anthony Davis is the great equalizer to keep the Mavs within that spread tonight in Sacramento. And if they're going to keep it within a 5 or 4.5 point number, I think the Mavericks can pull off the outright upset.
Yeah, no, and again, like I've had a simple train of thought all week long because I like Sacramento. I think they have a pretty good starting 5 here, even though, made some trades and changes up, but they're talented and it's home court advantage. And that does mean a lot. But as I start to look at the starting lineup here, somewhat healthy now for the Mavericks, got a couple games in, they have some veteran leadership that they can lean on, and taking the points doesn't seem like a bad idea. And also, it's not taking the points by 245.5. There's going to be a million possessions to blow the doors off. We have a relatively low total here where you're expecting a 1 or 2 possession game in the fourth quarter. So why not take the points at this point, which makes the most sense. But also, talking around these games as we have it, in the content business and also in the gambling business, more meaningful games are usually a better situation across all sports here. We love it. It's like the bowl season for me. I get angry because a lot of teams don't really care about it. Some teams do. But when you make the college football playoff, everybody cares about it. Same thing in March Madness. Hey, expansion of the tournament, some people don't like because they like the traditional of, 64, 68 teams, what you have now. But if you added more teams in, there's still meaningful games that you can bet on and handicap accordingly. The reason I'm bringing this up is the NBA did do the expansion to have the play-in rounds. Is it overkill at this point now? Because I'm not saying we're talking about these games and like it, we'll bet on these and we get it. But we look at the Eastern Conference, and it's already watered down. You have these teams man, does anybody care about them even playing the Bulls tonight, taking on the Heat at this point? Or even in the West Conference there. The Mavericks, an afterthought. They traded Luka, and they're playing the Kings, who are relatively ineffective on a national landscape. Did we go too much with the play-in round here at this point? Should it just be the top 8 and let's roll?
I think so, right? Why do you play 82 games to have to play 2 more to be the 8th seed who is going to take on the top seed and not really do it? I understand why they do it, right? It's money, it's extra TV revenue, all of that stuff. I love the first 4 in Dayton, but I think it proves why you don't need to expand anything around postseason action on the hardwood. We got a great game between the Grizzlies and the Warriors last night, but the first one was a 25-point blowout in favor of the Magic. Yeah, was it closer to 10 points for a good majority of the game? Sure. Was it ever really within a possession or 2 in the critical moments of that game? Not necessarily. And I will just say, DRS, these games tonight, I think, lack a little bit of that luster. Because these games tonight, of course, if you lose, your season is done. But even if you win, you got to then go on the road on a 48-hour span to more than likely be the underdog, to try to beat the team that played last night, to try to become the 8th seed, and then your reward is the 1 seed. It feels like a lot of hoops to jump through, if you will, and at times insignificant hoops to just be the 8th seed. Now, we have seen teams like the Miami Heat, for instance, who, of course, play tonight against the Chicago Bulls, use this time to build momentum and go on magical runs. So who are we to knock it? Feels very different, especially in the Eastern Conference. Really feels different even for the 8th seed in the Western Conference to have to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. But that might be a statement on where the odds are and what we have seen this NBA season, play-in tournament or not.
Yeah, and again, it's more meaningful basketball. These guys are playing hard. You saw last night, it was hey, Ja Morant's upset. I don't even know how I'm playing in these games, and I went out at this point. Or you saw Trae Young, we're always in the play-in. Let's just put us in the playoffs. This is ridiculous at this point. He's still going to play hard and look to get into the true playoffs when it's said and done, but it's just an interesting concept that they brought up a couple years ago.
The second night of the NBA postseason comes your way on this Wednesday. Another doubleheader of action in the NBA play-in tournament. Our 9-10 games tonight in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Of course, tonight, the loser has their season come to a close. The winner gets ready for a turnaround on Friday, either to visit Memphis in the Western Conference or Atlanta in the Eastern Conference, needing 2 wins in this play-in tournament to become the 8th seed in the actual playoffs that begin on Saturday. DRS, let's start with our opening game of the 2 tonight inside the United Center, the Madhouse on Madison in Chicago. It's the Bulls playing host to the Heat. Again, both teams very comfortable in these play-in tourney spots. They have been here, I believe, in at least 2 of the last 3 years, if not all 3 in a row. It is a money line pick'em tonight between Chicago and Miami. So the question is rather simple. Who wins this game and advances to Atlanta on Friday night?
Hey, the interesting part about it, too, is that the line itself is only -1, and I continue to bring that up. You take a look at, at the FanDuel Sportsbook, around other spots here. It's heavy tickets, 7 out of 10 tickets coming in on the Chicago Bulls for the most part of it, which I do agree with. But also, why is 70% of the tickets coming in at a -1? Like, are we leaving the Miami Heat out of this point? Now, they do have a pedigree there with their head coach, world championships. We'll have them prepared. I get it. But I'm leaning more on the home court advantage at this point here. And I do think the Bulls do have an advantage in that spot. Now, Tyler Hero can have a great game tonight. Bam Adebayo, absolutely. But if I just look man for man and where they're playing, I do think it's a pretty cheap price on the Chicago Bulls. You're asking them just to win the game and get the cover, which is pretty simple, at a -1. You look at the total end of it, right, at 222 down to 219, 219.5, depending on where it's going to end up tonight. I do agree with, again, the Miami Heat footprint is not let's get into a race. Let's just play good defense. Let's measure up and hit our shots when we can. But just getting back to the original prognosis for me, I haven't wavered. When I saw this line come out, I thought it was a stone-cold Heat line, which if you're just betting lines, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But I do think the Bulls are the better team in this situation tonight.
Yeah, DRS, I'm all in on Chicago. I bet the Bulls on that money line. Price at -120. Earlier in the week, it was -112, -104. Total has been pretty steady around 219 since we did see a move from when it opened. I really like this Bulls team. I think Chicago not only wins tonight, I'm going to pick Chicago to beat the Hawks if the Bulls do, in fact, win and head to Atlanta on Friday. The Bulls are playing with a lot of momentum right now. They won 15 of their final 20 to end out the regular season. And a lot of that has been the spark from the young stars in the Windy City, Josh Giddey and Kobe White. I really like how Chicago is playing, and because it is a pick-up needing just an outright win, we'll back the Bulls this evening. Now, DRS, I'm not going to think the Bulls then beat the Hawks and all of a sudden are this pesky 8 seed about to make the Cleveland Cavaliers life an absolute living you-know-what to start off the postseason, but I do think Chicago plays well tonight, wins this game outright against the Heat, and then maybe makes some noise come Friday. And as we look at this matchup, DRS confirmed 3 consecutive years for both the Heat and the Bulls in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament. A lot of that squad for Miami still here, despite the fact that Jimmy Butler took his play-in expertise to Golden State, as we saw with a game-best 38 points last night. You still have Tyler Hero, and you still have some players in this spot for the Heat, including Bam Adebayo, that can play some good basketball. Andrew Wiggins, who came back to Miami in that Jimmy Butler deal. Those are the 3 highest points prompts tonight for Miami. On the other side for the Bulls, those guys I mentioned, Kobe White, Josh Giddey, and of course the veteran big in Nikola Vucevic. That's why I like Chicago to come through this evening.
Yeah, and also a lower total there. So for me, if I'm looking at player props, like if you expect the Miami Heat to win, it probably is going to go through Tyler Hero, right? There's a lot more options to me if you're looking for options for scoring-wise, at least with the Chicago Bulls. So I would land on Hero, like 3+ made threes at a -138 price. If you think they're going to win, it's really just a correlation. Yeah. But it's one of those where, like, I don't want to be wrong. Okay, let's say Kobe White over 22.5 points. He scores 20 points for the Bulls to win. Like, man, I told you the Bulls would win this game. Why did I just go with a prop bet along with it? But I feel stronger on the opposite side by saying I think Tyler Hero has to be that linchpin for the Miami Heat for them to win this basketball game, or at least, should I say, be competitive here. So if I'm looking at a Bulls props perspective, I don't like it all that much. I just like the Bulls. But if I'm looking from a player prop perspective from the Heat, I think there's better options here because I just think the offense has to flow exactly through Tyler Hero and get good production out of Tyler Hero for them to win this basketball game on the road.
Yeah, and Donnie, we have seen Tyler Hero put up a lot of points for Miami following the All-Star break. He has not shot the three all that well, though. He's only really made 2 threes in most of his final games to end out the regular season. This year, from three-point range for Tyler Hero, looking at the entirety of this season, 37.5%. Again, can still fill it up from beyond the arc, but the scoring production has been in other areas. Josh Giddey, by the way, for Chicago to record a triple-double, plus 190. Final 6 games that Giddey played in the regular season, a triple-double in half of those 6, 3 of 6. He has started to become that guy, much in the way where you almost expect a triple-double, not quite to the proficiency of Nikola Jokic, but plus 190, of course, is not the steepest number on a player to record a triple-double. And Donnie, I mentioned how the Bulls won 15 of their last 20 games to round out the regular season, including 2 wins against Miami. 1 in South Beach, 1 in Chicago in the final week of the regular season, both outright as an underdog for the Bulls. They are comfortable playing this team. Again, it's why I like Chicago tonight. Let's get to our nightcap in California's capital. That's the Kings and the Mavericks. Sacramento now a 4.5-point favorite tonight against Dallas. Total stands at 214. Line earlier in the week was 5 in favor of the Kings. A little bit of buyback to the way of the Mavs, and that total dropping down to just 214 on this Wednesday morning. Donnie, you said earlier in the week you were ready to lay the number with Sacramento.
Yeah.
You've kind of changed your tune. How come?
Yeah, I just figure that we're going to get a close game here, and I just want to lean on the points because it's not a foregone conclusion that one side is going to win this game. And I didn't even think we had a foregone conclusion last night in the Western Conference in that game in Golden State. I just saw the points and said, 2 quality basketball teams, stars on both sides. Let's see how it plays out. And it worked out in my favor where you got the cover for the Memphis Grizzlies, but you probably thought the Warriors would win that game. I sort of have that same vibe. Like, I've liked the Kings all season long. I like their starting lineup. They have home court advantage. They should theoretically win the game. And at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, 61% of those spread bets coming in on Sacramento, the home team, 71% of the total money coming in on Sacramento. But also, that line really not moving in the right direction. So if you're just reading line movement tied to how many bets are coming in and the money, this line should be Kings 5.5, maybe 6.5 at this point. And it hasn't moved and theoretically has come down a half point. I just look at Anthony Davis. He's the end-all be-all, right? He's going to play great defense. If he's on offense, can be damn near unstoppable, which is what you like at this point. So that's why I started having that fold over, say, if I'm just looking at this game as a coin flip, to be honest, then why don't you just take the 4.5 points and you can still lose this game as a Mavericks backer and still cover the point spread. That's what's changed up for me. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that, yes, the Kings win, which means they automatically win by 5+ points. That has me turning back a little bit more to the Dallas Mavericks right now.
Yeah, DRS, you mentioned it. 71% of the money in terms of the spread betting backing Sacramento. And yet the line has worked against the Kings on the FanDuel Sportsbook. We would consider that a fishy type of line that maybe, despite the public sentiment backing the Kings at home tonight, the Mavericks are going to be in this game. Our coach, JY, broke it down earlier, just saying it's been a disastrous season for Dallas. And he's correct, right? Luka Doncic gone in that blockbuster deal that has still left a fan base and a city stunned. Kyrie Irving out for the remainder of this season. Anthony Davis missed a good chunk of time after being acquired by the Mavericks. And I understand what JY is mentioning, that Sacramento has so much more depth. Domantas Sabonis now back and healthy and performing well. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. I get all of it for the Kings. Believe me. I still think the biggest X factor tonight and the guy that could turn the fate of this game is Anthony Davis, now back and healthy. We'll talk why on the other side of the break. But down the stretch, after he returned from the adductor strain that he suffered in his Dallas debut, in the 8 games that he played for the Mavs, Dallas won 5 of them, including a couple outright as an underdog. A couple of ways to approach the props for tonight's play-in tourney action. Next. Tonight in California's capital, our nightcap of a doubleheader of 9-10 matchups in the play-in tournament. The Sacramento Kings hosting the Dallas Mavericks. I have already said I bet the Mavs +5 earlier in the week. Market working my way despite public love backing Sacramento. And Donnie, if Dallas is going to stay within this number tonight, even if they lose outright, or if they pull off the outright upset to head to Memphis on Friday evening, for me it focuses on one guy solely, That's Anthony Davis for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
His points prop, the highest for tonight's matchup in Sacktown, 26.5, a minus 370 number to record a double-double. Anthony Davis, since returning from the injury that he suffered in his Dallas debut, has played in 8 games. The Mavericks have won 5 of them. In his last 4, he has scored at least 23 points. Here's another way I might approach this game. If I think Anthony Davis is Dallas's best shot of winning this game outright, plus 164, that updated and live money line price, how about AD to score 30 plus? It's plus 182. The Mavs could lose. Anthony Davis could still get to 30, and I cash that ticket. I don't think it's the worst way if my belief in the Mavericks focuses on one guy. That, of course, is the Brow.
Yeah, you're certainly going to pay a premium, no doubt about it. And look at the differences here. 25-10 tonight. If you bet that on the FanDuel Sportsbook, you're looking at maybe like an even money number, which is crazy. But if you do up the rebounds just by 2 and go 25-12, it's a plus 156. So if you do ladder above 10 rebounds and or more than 25 points, you can be looking at a pretty penny at that point. But also understand this. You see that total, it's really low. So if we're getting like 30 points out of Anthony Davis, that's a big part about that offense for the Dallas Mavericks. The expectations are going to be that it is supposed to be a high-scoring game. But I agree with you there. This is one of those games where it's like, hey, Anthony Davis, it's much more than, look, I know I'm the leader of the team, I'm the best player, but there's a pride to this saying, I was traded for Luka Doncic. Like, these are the times in single-game eliminations, per se, and a national spotlight where I need to shine for my ball club and also for the general manager that brought me in and continuously told me, you are the backbone of this franchise for the next couple of years, and see you perform. So I would be surprised if we got a cowering performance outside of injury. It's like, 17, 6, and 5 or something out of Anthony Davis. He needs to perform and perform well, and he should. It's not an unbelievable defense for Sacramento he's going up against, or an immovable force in Domantas Sabonis on the low block. He should get his tonight.
Yeah, and for the Kings, DRS, Zach LaVine also acquired near the trade deadline from Chicago. I believe in the deal that sent De'Aaron Fox to Sacramento in that 3-way extravaganza or the multiple team trade. He's been really good in the 7 games he's played in the month of April, averaging better than 27 points per game, has gone over his points prop with at least 25 in 5 of those 7. I'm not trying to knock the Kings. I do think Sacramento can stay in this basketball game. They are the 4.5-point home favorite. I'm just backing the Mavericks tonight. Any closing thoughts on the play-in tournament before we move on?
Yeah, both of these games should be afternoon games. Like, remember like COVID basketball where they're playing like playoff games in the middle of the afternoon? Yeah, put them in the middle of the afternoon. It adds intrigue here. Like, okay, let me watch this. Then I can watch the nightly stuff and do what I have to do. It just adds a little bit more of an element. Like, if this game would have tipped off at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, we would all be invested. Like, we play afternoon day baseball games. Like, nobody's going to show up. Yes, they will show up to that arena, and it will be great and fantastic, and everybody can enjoy and watch. What's wrong with that?
That'd be kind of fun to put a different emphasis on the play-in tournament, especially these games where the loser has their season come to a close. The winner still needs one more win to get into the actual NBA playoffs starting this weekend. Again, winner of tonight's game in Chicago between the Bulls and the Heat will visit the Hawks on Friday in Atlanta. Winner of tonight's game in Sacramento between the Kings and the Mavericks will visit the Memphis Grizzlies on Friday night as well, trying to become the 8th seed in their respective playoff sets.